Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Wes, and this evening had a little bit extra time, so I thought it'd be cool to flip through some photos and sort of do a little review of the Canon 5D Mark IV, which I have right here. Had this camera basically since it came out. I pre-ordered it, and I've been watching a few other people's reviews online, and just not happy with that. So do my own real world review. Not this past weekend, but 2 weekends ago, I had a chance to take the camera to Disney. So I basically just wanted to flip through some pictures and sort of talk about the camera a little bit, tell you what I like about it, and just sort of thoughts and opinions. Now this review isn't necessarily going to be focused on video. I went to Disney with the intention to do video, but I was by myself, and it just really didn't present itself. I was having so much fun with the photography aspect of the camera that I figured I would do video review another day. So this is basically just going to be photos. So let's just jump right into it. Here we are at the entrance to the Magic Kingdom, and pretty much all these photos, I think all these photos are going to be from the Magic Kingdom. As you can see, just right off the bat, especially compared to the 5D Mark III, the sensor really seems to capture a bunch of detail. I'll show you, and as we go through, I'll be sure to show you before and after these photos as well. This is and by the way, these are all RAW files as well. I did shoot JPEG and RAW. I went right before Adobe released their update to Lightroom, so I shot JPEGs, and thankfully within just a couple of days after shooting these, they released the update to Lightroom. So we're editing the RAW files and looking at the RAW files. Now this image is pretty cool. I exposed the picture mostly for the foreground, and I sort of overexposed the clouds, as you can see, but with just pulling the highlights down, and boy, it really brought out a lot of detail in the clouds in the sky. Just sort of made that image pop. It just feels like just a little bit easier to do that with the 5D Mark IV than the Mark III. Here I shot low to sort of take the people out of the background and make it less obstructive. And yeah, I like the colors, contrast. Shooting, this is a 4.0 and ISO 100. Here's straight out of camera, the RAW, edited nicely. Once again, here's just a close-up of one of the little statues, Dumbo, and the sensor picks up a ton of detail. 30 megapixels is pretty nice, not gonna lie, and very sharp. Here again, this is just a wide angle. We had rain coming, so I was trying to shoot a little bit of shoot a few photos basically before storm rolled in. So people weren't out. They actually had this area blocked off, so I just shot a few photos of this. I want to show you this photo next, and this is an area, and you'll see this through quite a few of these photos. I really wanted to push the sensor. I mean, anybody can go take some daylight scene, whatever. I wanted to kind of push the sensor and see really how much extra dynamic range that it has compared to the Mark III. And this is pretty impressive. This is the after editing, and here's before. And as you can see, just look how dark all of the foreground is. And then when I increase, and the exposure, you can see, isn't changed here at all. This is basically just increasing the shadows quite a bit, and also adding some vibrance and clarity. It's pretty amazing how much detail is retained. This was shot at wide open at 1.4, by the way, so I could sort of blur out the foreground, and that way focus on the castle more. But yeah, honestly, just amazed at how much detail could be brought back out. And again, you'll see that quite a bit going through these photos. This is at ISO 3200, and here's straight out of camera. As you see, pretty clean for ISO 3200. Pretty happy with ISO performance. So it was getting dark, and we were waiting on, or I was waiting on the one of the parades to come, and decided to crank up the ISO. I had my 16 to 35 4.0 lens on, and so this is actually ISO 25,600. And for me, this would be, I mean, yeah, sure, it's got a lot of grain. You couldn't print this, especially very large, but just to throw this on Instagram or social media, yeah, it'd be perfect, completely usable. I'm pretty happy with ISO 25,600, and this is a 1/60th of a second, by the way. Here's another shot, basically the same settings, 25,600, 1/50th of a second. And just zooming in, this is a little bit editing, a little bit of noise reduction. Straight out of camera would look like that. And then after my editing, bringing out color, contrast, all that stuff. To me, again, very usable image. You know, I could easily throw that on Instagram or post it on Facebook, social media. Pretty astonishing for me anyway, coming from the 5D Mark III for that high of an ISO. I would never shoot that high on my Mark III. Usually the highest I would go would be about 6,400 on the Mark III. Again, I won't waste your time with too many of these. Just another shot at 25,600. So this is the Boo to You Halloween Parade. This is done at the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. I think I got that right. And basically with the parade, I just wanted to see how well the autofocus worked and how well it would track moving subjects. So I positioned myself here in front of the castle where the parade would come around the bend this way and then right by me. So I was in a great spot. I actually waited about 45 minutes ahead of time to grab this spot. And again, just wanted to check focus. Most of these were shot at pretty high ISO, and I think I switched between lenses a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. This is with the 35mm at f1.4 and ISO 12,800. And you can see pretty decent. Again, I could easily throw that on Instagram. Again, these are at ISO 6400, 1.4, 2/50th of a second. And for my purposes, they look pretty good. I didn't have any trouble with tracking focus, especially low light. I'll just kind of keep flipping through some of these. Again, this is ISO 12,800. I could have gone down on the ISO probably a little bit on this one. It was 1/500th of a second. Obviously, their costumes made the scene quite a bit brighter, but I mean that's okay. It's still, you know, for my purposes, was a pretty good shot. I like the sort of the poses and the capture here. Another shot of the dancers. So trivia question, is this Chip or Dale? I'll let you guys answer that in the comments if you want. Tell me how you tell the difference between Chip and Dale. There you go. Let me know that in the comments below. So the parade was over, and I was waiting on the fireworks, and had my tripod set up. So I decided to try some long exposure ISO 100. The 16 to 35mm lens is amazing. I liked how this one turned out. I kind of gave it a different crop I thought it looked really cool with these lights and the very small aperture. And as you can see, this is a fairly small crop of this, by the way. This was at 16 millimeters. I cropped most of the top of the picture out. As you can see, pretty sharp. If you want to see what the whole thing looked like, you can see I cropped quite a bit. Basically, the top half of the photo is cropped out. Again, that was mostly just playing around with that picture. So here are fireworks. I was really excited. Fireworks is one of my favorite things to photograph when I go to Disney. It's always fun trying to be creative and just, I don't know, photographing fireworks sort of makes you feel creative. I love all the sparkly stuff and just trying to time the exposure with the different bursts and stuff. So here's a few fireworks photos I'll flip through for you. And these I wanted to mention too, and I'll show you in just a minute how much detail in the shadows, in the dark areas specifically, that this camera, the sensor, was able to pick up. Pretty amazing. There's a couple in particular. Here's one of them, and really all of them I could do this straight out of camera. Again, this is the raw file. And this is after my edit. And if we go here and look at the shadows, I mean, it's if I increase the shadows, it's really just amazing how much detail that this sensor picks up. Here you can see the Disney and Mickey statue in front of the castle. You can see, the whole crowd watching the fireworks. I mean, that's just really cool. And that again, this is just straight out of camera here. This is completely unedited, which I personally like adding in. I like showing the crowd. It gives a little bit of sense of depth instead of just sort of here's a castle and here's fireworks over the castle. I like to see the crowd and the excitement and people watching. I'll flip through a few more for you. And I could do the same with all of these if I increased shadows. Or the other way I could do it is just drag a gradient up. If I didn't want to increase shadows in the rest of the image too much, I could just drag a gradient up and it would do the same thing. Love this one. All these sparkly things are pretty awesome. Most of these are in the 10 to 15 second range. This one was 12 seconds. Again, ISO 100 f16. Sometimes I shoot with a neutral density filter, but I didn't shoot with it for any of these photos. I actually have done like I think a 7-8 minute exposure one time at Disney with a neutral density filter. That was pretty cool. I really like this one. This was pretty crazy, intense fireworks. Especially when you increase the shadows and also increasing clarity. It really makes the crowd kind of stand out. Just pretty cool. So for the fireworks photos, these were pretty much the best of the ones I got from that night. I think it's about a 15-18 minute fireworks show. This is the Headless Horseman on Main Street. They only did it once that night, and I was pretty disappointed. I waited beforehand to get this guy as well. And literally about 2 minutes before he came out, a Disney cast member decided to stand. In fact, you can see, well, maybe not. I thought that maybe this was, yeah, actually, I think this is like part of her hair or something that's blurred out in the foreground right here. She literally stood right in front of me, and she saw my camera and everything. So this was the only photo I got, and I actually missed the focus a little bit on that one. But it's still cool. I was rewarded, however, with being in the right place at the right time for this. These are some characters from Zootopia, and they came out and did a little dance and like another pre-parade, pre-show routine. And as he was running out, he saw my camera, so he gave me some cool poses. I thought that was pretty neat. All right, so that evening was over. This is on to the next day. I was pretty happy with what I got, even though it rained part of the time. Loved the fireworks photos. Thought the 5D Mark IV did a really good job with those. Definitely happy. So here I decided to just basically walk around for a little while, mostly with the 35 1.4 on, and just see if I could be creative shooting wide open. This is when I went to eat lunch. This is inside what's it called? The Be Our Guest restaurant. So again, pretty low light. This is ISO 6400 at 1/60th of a second at 1.4. If you've never eaten there, by the way, it's pretty good and not too badly priced for lunch. First time I'd ever tried it. All right, and again, here's just trying to be creative with wide aperture. That's about it. All the detail that Disney puts into their rides and attractions, it's really awesome. Once again, just me trying to be creative. Actually, I may have overdone this a little bit on the vibrance. I don't know. This is the Seven Dwarfs mine train car ride, whatever it's called. I was trying to catch it looking through. This is actually some sort of pine tree here in the foreground, and I waited. I actually tried to do this several times. I waited several times as the train came by, and sort of wanted to capture it through the trees and just try to be creative with the photo. I like the way this one turned out. I like the framing. All right, so here again, this is another one where I was just trying to be creative with the train and the castle in the background. I actually just played around, edited out the crane that was working on the castle. The crane makes for some great shots of the castle. So I just used the spot removal tool and took that out right here in Lightroom. But what I wanted to do with this photo, again, I did this on purpose just to see. The whole thing's underexposed, obviously. It's exposed more for the sky than the foreground. And I really just wanted to see if I exposed for the sky, how much of the detail in the foreground that I could bring back. And after some editing, yeah, it looks pretty amazing. That's a totally usable shot right there for me. Love that one. The iconic Dumbo ride. I love this. Try to be a little. I think I have some other. I think I've got some others coming up at this here shortly. So here's me actually on the Seven Dwarfs ride, and again, this was with the 35mm lens at 1.4. And just trying to blur out the foreground, blur out the background, and just make an artsy looking photo. The 1.4 aperture really makes for a great dark ride lens, and I've got some more examples of that coming up here soon. When you're outside, obviously you can use anything, but inside you don't want to use flash. And this is actually projection on the face here. So this is a little bit hard to capture because it's a projection of the face. The animation, it's all projection. So anyway, this was ISO 12,800 with 35mm 1.4 at 3/20th of a second. And once again, super usable. Here's another example. This was taken just right after the previous one as we went around the corner. And these are the best photos I've ever gotten of the dark rides, and to be of this ride particularly, and to be honest with you, of probably every single dark ride that I went on this day. Easily able to capture way more on the dark rides than I was with my Mark III, and part of that I think is due to the autofocus in low light. Autofocus was just really amazing, and also just shooting at high ISO to be able to edit out some of that noise. It's low noise to begin with, but then you just edit out some of that noise. I mean, sure, there's still noise there, but again, I mean, I don't print huge photos. Just throwing that on Instagram, it's great. This is from On the Ride as well. The Beast Castle, Beauty and the Beast. That's the Be Our Guest restaurant. Oh, this is interesting as well. I was trying to focus. This is right before you get off of the ride. They've got this little house, Snow White's house, set up, and you can see characters inside. These characters are actually, from what I understand, from the old ride, Snow White and Seven Dwarfs ride that used to be there at the Magic Kingdom that they took down, but they put the characters in here, and even through all of the reflections in the glass. I could barely even see these characters, by the way. Even through the reflections in the glass, I was able to lock focus on the characters inside. Here you can actually see me in the glass, my reflection. It's pretty funny. All right, moving along. Oh, this is an interesting story. So I was walking around, this is Fantasyland, and they have great characters. This lady, she was all dressed up, had a cool outfit on, and she was interacting with people, and I went over to take some pictures of her. So she started posing for me and talking to me, and just giving me these great poses and faces. And again, I was shooting just wide open at 1.4, as you can see, just to blur out the background, keep the background as distraction free as possible. Again, just giving me great poses. And then all of a sudden she's like, hey, let's take a picture of me and you. And I'm like, well, how am I going to do that? I've got this DSLR with a 35 millimeter lens. It's set at 1.4. Everybody knows you don't go give your camera to a random stranger with a 1.4 lens and expect them to get a good shot. But then I remembered the touch screen on the back, and I was like, you know what, we're gonna just try this out. So she literally ran over and grabbed this guy. She was like, kind sir, would you please do us a favor and take our picture? And I handed the guy my camera. I turned the screen on the back, and I was just like, hey, all you gotta do, point this right here and press on my face, and it'll focus and take the picture, and that's all you have to do. And I left it set at 1.4 on purpose just to see what would happen, because I mean, it's impossible to explain to somebody, move the focal point over the eye, hold still, don't focus and recompose and blah blah blah, all that stuff. I literally was like, here's the camera, pointed at us, tap on my face, and it'll take the picture. And here's what happened. So here's me, and here's her. We're not both in focus, but look what is in focus. My face. And this is at 1.4. That's pretty amazing. I thought about it right as we were taking the picture, and I shifted myself back just a little bit to get our eyes more on the same focal plane. So we're close. It's almost on the same focal plane. But this guy did exactly what I told him to do, and that's pretty unbelievable to get just some bystander to get a really good photo at a 1.4 aperture. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Here's one more. Or again, the same thing. My face is perfectly in focus. Pretty amazing. And background very distraction free. It's pretty sweet. I'll definitely be using that feature more often. It was something I completely didn't think about when I first bought the camera, or when they first announced that as being a feature of the new camera. I just sort of thought about it right there on the spot, and I was like, hey, this might be cool, this might work. And sure enough, it did. So that's pretty neat. Again, just wide open at 1.4, trying to be creative. Pretty in focus, pretty nice. Once again, this is one of those ones where I tried to expose a little more for the sky and a little less so for the foreground, because, you know, increased dynamic range, let's see what it can do. And sure enough, it just brings it back and it looks awesome. Unfortunately, and it would be easy to take it out in Photoshop, but unfortunately we have the crane in the background. Little disappointing that day. There's another one. I'll have to edit that out. Here's a Disney photographer for you. I was waiting on the daytime parade, and this guy came walking by. I had switched to my 70 to 200 2.8 with IS version 2. And so I just snapped off a couple in burst mode just to see how it tracked. If it'll load here. And yeah, as you can see, perfect focus. Yeah, it just tracks no problem. Here's another Disney PhotoPass photographer. They all use Nikons. So the first few of these photos were with the 70 to 200. This is at 200 millimeters, 2.8. I pretty much, by the way, generally almost always use my lenses wide open. I figure, why pay the extra money for 2.8 glass if you're not going to use it? Same with my 35 1.4 version 2. You know, if you're not going to use it at 1.4, why even bother? I've got the 16 to 35 4.0 with IS, and you know, I can just use that at 35 millimeters otherwise. So I like to try to use it wide open whenever I can. And here, once again, it just seemed to track, as far with the autofocus, it seemed to track whatever I would focus on very well. The dancers, I liked this pose. You can see she's very much in focus and looks very sharp and detailed. And the same, I don't want to zoom in on all of these and waste your time, but I mean, you can see this looks sharp, very much in focus. Just more close-ups of characters. Tiana from Princess and the Frog. One of the dancers, and nice and sharp. I love the color in this. That's quite the pop-in outfit. At this point, I'd switched to the 16 to 35, just to try to get some wide angle and show a bit more. And this is another one of those ones where I exposed more for the sky on purpose, just to, you know, see what would happen if I could bring the detail back. And I mean, again, it looks great when you bring the shadows up. Looks pretty awesome. Pretty much did the same thing here also. It wasn't as extreme though. Almost a little bit of an HDR effect. That dragon is cool. If you've never seen the dragon from the parade in person, it's almost worth the visit to the Magic Kingdom just to check out this dragon. Once again, just shooting characters as they're running by, you know, just checking to make sure autofocus works, especially in the AI servo or AI focus mode. Just flipping back and forth. AI servo seemed to be, you know, just fine. I didn't have any problems with it at all. close-up of Mickey. And here's another one. I had never even noticed this before. This is pretty amazing though. If you increase the shadows, you can actually see these like cutouts in Mickey's ears. And I'd never even noticed that before in my other pictures. This was straight out of camera. This is after a little bit of color contrast, vibrance. Yeah, I'm an idiot. Shooting 1.4, 1/8,000th of a second, broad daylight. But it sure freezes the water drops. This is at 1.4 as well. And I believe I used the live focus, the dual pixel autofocus, the touchscreen, and focused right here on Pinocchio's eye. And just even at 1.4, look how sharp that is. Probably my favorite lens, by the way, the 35 1.4. Okay, so now we're getting to a few dark ride photos, and I was really impressed with how well this camera was able to focus in low light. I mean, these the Winnie the Pooh ride, this is basically, in fact, the next 6 pictures or so, these characters are basically only lit with black light, as far as I know. And yeah, extremely difficult to focus on. The characters are moving. I was pretty happy with what I was able to get here, though. This is ISO 6400, 35 millimeters, 1.4 at an 80th of a second. And I mean, for me, that's a great photo. I love that. Is it perfectly 100% sharp? No, but we were also moving, going by on the ride. I probably could have and should have bumped up the ISO a little bit more to get a bit faster shutter speed, but the fact that I was even able to focus at all here, I'm pretty happy. And this as well, very very low light in there. I mean, it's, other than the characters, it's almost pitch black. So this is switching over to the Peter Pan ride, and I've never actually gotten a photo at all of this before. This is the room where you're flying over London, and it's amazing. It looks really neat. It's lit up with black light. It's so dark in this room, it's unbelievable. This is ISO 25,600 at 1.4 at 1/40th of a second. The fact that the camera was able to focus at all in this room, yes, I could have had a faster shutter speed and should have had a faster shutter speed, but the fact that the camera was able to focus at all in this room was just unbelievable. This is the best picture I've ever gotten in there. The shutter speed could have been faster, it's got a little bit of motion blur, but still, again, I could easily put that on Instagram. Pretty much the same settings, 25,600. This is at 1/60th of a second. Again, the fact that I could focus and get this picture at all of these characters, very impressed. I don't think I've ever gotten really any usable pictures with my Mark III on the Peter Pan ride. It's very difficult. The whole ride, if you've ever been on it, the whole ride's extremely dark and pretty much all lit with black light. Just another angle here as we were riding by. And one last one. Again, these are all at ISO 25,600. These 4. And for me, I know I've said this a bunch, probably tired of me saying it. For me, completely usable. I mean, very usable. Okay, moving to outside. Another outside shot at 1.4. I like to do that. I really like to blur out the foreground, make things less obvious, less distracting. And this is where I was focusing on, and you can see wide open. It's an amazingly sharp lens. Canon should make me a salesman for their 35. So this is f/22 at 1/6 of a second. Not really handheld, more like put my hand on a rock and steady myself and take the picture, just to try to get some motion in the water. This one and this one and this one, both at 1/6 of a second at an aperture of 22. Thought it was pretty neat. Okay, so here we are back to the Dumbo ride. And I thought I would try to be creative here and work on my panning technique. So here's Dumbo being panned. I actually like how it turned out, and this is a crop. Here you can see the full thing. I liked this crop a little better, so that's what we've got. And I've got one more panning, and you can see I've got the face in focus, and that's what I was trying to do. I actually really like this shot. It's kind of cool, everything else all blurred out, but the face in focus. Here's one more where I really wanted to kind of push the sensor and see what I could get out of it. And as you can see, the before photo is just really not good. The sky was bright, foreground very dark, and extremely difficult to get all this exposure correct just straight out of the camera. So I was like, okay, we're just going to make the sky look halfway decent and bring the rest up in post in Lightroom. And again, it just really looks pretty awesome. I mean, the sensor just, again, close up, they're straight out of camera, and bringing the shadows up, just the sensor retains just a lot of detail. This was at 5.6. I didn't shoot this one wide open. Just one more where I tried to do the same thing. Just overcast day. Oh, this is with the fisheye at 15 millimeters. Fisheye is a fun lens. I don't think I'm showing a whole lot of the fisheye photos from the day though. This was one. Again, just seeing what kind of detail I can bring back. Here I could bring the shadows up quite a bit here actually, but I sort of like this one being a little bit dark and kind of moody. So we can leave the shadows where it is. And here's another one. This is a great example of really bringing the detail out of the shadows. Once again, as I've done with all the other photos, expose more for the sky and then just see what will happen when I bring the shadows back. Here's before. I mean, look how dark and drab and pretty terrible looking this whole foreground and the subject looks. And this is with the fisheye, 15 millimeters 4.0. I should have had the ISO at 100, but I don't think I was paying attention at the time, so could have lowered that a little bit, but that's fine. Anyway, just look how dark it is, and then just bring the shadows up, bringing exposure up, and decreasing some highlights to bring the sky back. I mean, that's an amazing amount of detail. I've been reading on the forums, and people are saying, oh, we have to push a JPEG up 5 stops to see any usable difference. It's kind of stupid. This is exposure increased 1 stop, and then shadows increased plus 60. So from that to that, pretty huge dramatic improvement. I don't think I could have pulled that much detail out of the sensor on my 5D Mark III. Don't think I could have done it. And then just one last shot. I know I've gone through a bunch. This is actually, oh wow, a little over 101 photos. One last shot where it's basically the same thing. All of this was dark. This was dark. The sky was bright. There's the initial photo. It looks pretty boring. It looks like a snapshot. It looks terrible. But with some editing, actually looks really good. And yeah, usable. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to talk about it for a few minutes. So would I recommend the 5D Mark IV based on photography aspect, and do I think that it's a worthwhile upgrade to the Mark III, again just based on photography and the photo quality? Yes, I do, and I'm glad I have it. I'll still use my Mark III, but I'm definitely glad I bought the Mark IV. I can't speak too much at this point on video. Got a trip coming up soon, a Hawaii trip, so I'm planning to focus on video on that trip, and maybe do some YouTube stuff with the Mark IV for video. But at least for this, I thought the photos were really great. Just, you know, flipping through raw photos, and just trying to push the sensor as much as I could. Again, some of these low light, especially like these dark ride photos, I mean 25,600 ISO, and even being able to focus on this stuff riding by fast. I mean, to me that's unbelievable for me. I wasn't able to do that with my Mark III at all. So I'm happy with it, and I think you guys will be too if you decide to pick one up. There wasn't, as far as photography, wasn't a whole lot I didn't like about it. It feels great. I thought the Wi-Fi feature was cool. It was something I never knew I missed on the Mark III until I started playing around with it on my phone. You know, opening photos just on the camera and be like, hey, that's cool, and then send it to the phone and shooting it off to friends on iMessage. But anyway, that's cool. That's just what I wanted to show you, and talk about the camera for a little bit, show you some pictures. So I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to check out my other stuff, I haven't been YouTubing for very long. Most of my other stuff is vlogs, just from traveling, just goofing off, that kind of stuff. So if you want to check that out, feel free. Give me a subscribe. If you like this kind of thing, if you want to see me do actual editing, if you want me to talk about photography more, or I don't know, do some photography related tutorials, or show you how I do the Disney fireworks, I don't know, I've got all kinds of ideas, stuff I could, you know, videos I could do, things I could talk about. Just, you know, let me know. Leave me a few comments. That'd be great. Anyway, thanks for watching. Till next time, I guess, hopefully. See you then. Bye.